SHE live streamed her bachelorette party mocking me. I don't even know if I want to marry. Hello, my name is Daniel Ruiz. About 4 months ago, I experienced one of the most humiliating and surreal moments of my life. I've processed everything now. I think it's time to tell the story. I'm 30 years old and was engaged to Claudia, who's 29. We had been engaged for about 8 months, and honestly, I thought our relationship was solid. We shared expenses, made vacation plans, and had normal discussions about everyday things, like whether it was really necessary to buy the most expensive towels at the supermarket. I remember it was a Thursday night. I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop open, ready to make the final payment of $3,200 to our wedding catering service. It was real money, hard-earned. I was in responsible adult mode, checking off tasks from our color-coded spreadsheet. I felt calm, like everything was under control. And then my phone vibrated. Claudia was live streaming on Instagram. She had gone with her friends to a country house to celebrate her bachelorette party. I assumed the content would be typical: silly games, mimosa toasts, and probably some funny photos with the future bride's sash. I imagined I'd laugh with her about it later. I joined the stream. There she was, right in front of the camera, wearing the bride-to-be sash. Her best friend Valeria was holding the phone, clearly having had quite a bit to drink already. Over 200 people were watching live. Claudia's cheeks were flushed, and she was holding an elegant bottle. They were laughing at everything. And then Valeria, in her brilliant moment, said with a voice slurred by drinks, "Okay, moment of honesty. You're getting married next month. How do you really feel?" And that's when everything changed for me. Claudia took an exaggerated sip from the bottle and responded, "Daniel is very stable." But she said the word stable like it was a chronic illness, like stability was something you tolerate, not value. The others burst into laughter, and she continued, "He always pays bills on time. His car is spotless. He takes out the trash every Tuesday." It sounded like she was giving my eulogy. A voice off camera shouted, "But is he at least fun?" And Claudia, with that typical look of someone who thinks they're about to drop a brilliant joke, leaned toward the camera. "He's a good provider," she said, making air quotes. "My parents adore him." Then she paused, took another drink, and started being directly cruel. "But my God, how boring he is. You guys have no idea. He tries so hard to impress me all the time that it's pitiful. He organizes elaborate dates like they're movie productions, and honestly, I just sit there pretending to be interested." She made an exaggerated yawn face, which provoked more laughter. "Valeria," someone shouted to add to the spectacle, "wasn't he the one who still tucks his shirt into his jeans?" "Yes," Claudia squealed, "and he always checks himself in every mirror we pass, like his hair is going to grow back. Just accept it already." The laughter was deafening, and as if that wasn't enough, Claudia lowered her voice to deliver the final blow. "And let's not even talk about intimacy. He tries, sure, but he has no clue. I always have to fake it so it ends quickly." The comments section filled with laughing emojis, brutal messages, people tagging their friends to watch the show. Valeria was crying with laughter, and then Claudia, looking directly at the camera with an arrogant expression, said, "So should I marry him?" The place exploded. More comments, more mockery, more fire in the chat. Valeria was shaking with laughter to the point that the image was trembling like there was an earthquake. But the worst was still to come. Someone in the background shouted, "What about Tomas?" And then Claudia's eyes lit up like she remembered a wonderful anecdote. "Oh, Tomas," she squealed excitedly. "He was a colleague from her marketing department. I had seen him a couple of times at company events. Well, at the company retreat last month," she started to say, and I, watching everything live, knew exactly what was coming. With over 200 people as witnesses, Claudia began recounting in detail how she had an intimate encounter with this guy at a hotel during that retreat. Laughter, screams, explicit comments. It was grotesque, but I had already started screen recording. Call it instinct, but I felt I was going to need proof of all this. While all of this was happening, I was still sitting in front of my laptop with the deposit confirmation still on the screen. I was watching the woman who was supposed to become my wife turn our relationship into some kind of cheap comedy routine while confessing she had been unfaithful to me. And no, it wasn't a sarcastic comment. She really didn't know if she wanted to marry me, and she was asking hundreds of strangers on the internet instead of talking to me, the person she planned to unite her life with. In that moment, something inside me just switched off. Like a mental circuit breaker had been triggered. Everything around me became completely silent. I took my phone from my main account with my real name and photos and wrote 2 words in the live chat: "Don't bother." Then I closed the app, saved the video on my phone, closed the laptop, and sat there motionless. There was no anxiety, no fury, just an icy certainty, like when you finally fit the last piece of a puzzle. I realized I had about 12 hours before this situation would completely explode, so I got to work. First, I contacted the venue. I went straight to chat with Maria, our coordinator, a very professional woman. I wrote the most polite message I could. "Hello, Hello, this is Daniel Ruiz. Please consider this message as official notification of the cancellation of our wedding scheduled for October 12th. I understand the deposit is non-refundable. I would appreciate confirmation of receipt. Thank you very much. Send. Then I went to the shared file where we had everything for the wedding. A spreadsheet with every vendor, every payment, every guest's dietary restriction. Claudia had given me editing access months ago. I made a backup copy to my personal Google Drive and went back to the original file. That's when I made a very satisfying decision. I located Claudia's name in the editing permissions of the wedding planning document and simply removed her access. Just like that, with one click, she was locked out of everything we had prepared for 4 months. A bit vengeful? Maybe. Justified? Totally. Next step, catering service. I had literally just transferred them $3,200 20 minutes earlier. I drafted a brief, clear, formal email. Good evening. Due to the cancellation of the event, I inform you that no further arrangements will be necessary. I understand that according to the contract stipulations, this payment and the initial deposit are non-refundable. Regards, Daniel Ruiz. An hour later, my phone started ringing. On the screen appeared Valeria's face, the same face I had seen hours before, encouraging my fiancé to publicly mock me and confess she had been unfaithful. I let the call go to voicemail. Text messages immediately started arriving. Daniel, answer now. What did you do? Claudia received an email from the venue. What's going on? I silenced the phone and poured myself a drink. The funny thing is, I wasn't doing this to hurt Claudia. I was simply responding to a question she herself posed in her live stream. Should I marry him? I simply gave her my opinion. The rest was just logistics. Well, almost everything. The 24 hours that followed were absolute chaos on social media. My phone became the center of a storm of desperate calls and messages. Claudia tried to contact me 53 times. Her voicemails went through every possible emotion. Confusion, anger, pleading, more anger, until reaching a kind of absurd indignation, as if I had been the aggressor for responding to what she herself had started. Valeria also wrote to me nonstop, alternating between, "You have to fix this right now," and "I can't believe you're so insensitive," which was ironic coming from someone who filmed that entire scene while my relationship was being torn apart live for hundreds of people. But the most surreal thing was when Valeria created a WhatsApp group called Support for Claudia, where she added all our mutual friends. Obviously, I wasn't included, but one of my friends shared some screenshots with me. Daniel had a crisis and canceled everything over a simple joke, Valeria wrote. Claudia is devastated. He refuses to talk to her. He's such a drama queen. The responses were what you'd expect. That can't be. Hugs for Claudia. Men are so fragile. I didn't respond to any of those messages. Instead, I did some housekeeping that was long overdue. Claudia and Valeria had a small business designing wedding invitations and social media content. Something nice, yes, but they had been using my Canva premium account and my Adobe Creative Cloud subscription for a year. That was about $80 monthly in tools they used to generate income. I logged in, changed the passwords, and revoked all shared access. If they wanted to keep working, they could pay for their own accounts. Then I remembered that Claudia used our shared Amazon account, where my card was the primary payment method. She had been buying all kinds of things at my expense for months. Face masks, supplements, makeup, books. I logged out of all devices and changed that password too. Friday afternoon, I heard her key in the lock. I was on the sofa reading a Navy biography my father had recommended. A very calm scene, honestly. Claudia came in with her suitcase, still wearing the same clothes from the live stream. Her face tired with dark circles under her eyes. "You have 5 minutes to explain yourself," she said in an accusatory tone, feigning firmness, though her voice was trembling. "Explain what, Claudia?" I responded without getting up. "You asked a question and I answered. Then I acted accordingly. It was a joke. I was with my friends. It was my bachelorette party." Each excuse got louder, as if shouting could erase what she had done. "Was it also a joke when you called me boring in public? When you made fun of my appearance in front of hundreds of people? When you lied about our intimacy? Was the thing with Tomas also a joke?" Her face fell apart. She seemed to have forgotten everything she had said. "You turned our relationship into a spectacle for strangers, Claudia. You humiliated me in ways I didn't think possible. And the worst part is you forgot that the most important viewer was watching. No, you humiliated me," she shouted. "You commented on the video and then called the venue." My phone exploded. "Do you know how embarrassing that was?" "It must be," I said. "But you were the one who exposed our relationship to ridicule and confessed you had been unfaithful." I just turned off the camera. Something in her broke. She stood there speechless, opening and closing her mouth like a fish out of water. At that moment, her phone rang. Valeria's name appeared on the screen. Claudia answered and put it on speaker as if she needed backup. "Claudia, are you okay? Where are you?" Valeria said in that fake voice she used when she wanted to seem concerned. "I'm at the apartment with Daniel. He's being completely irrational." "I'm coming over there," Valeria interrupted. As soon as I heard that, I started recording with my phone. I had a feeling what was coming was going to be ugly, and I wanted to have everything documented. 5 minutes later, loud knocks started at the door. I opened it, and there was Valeria, disheveled, in pajamas, her face red with indignation. "How dare you?" she yelled at me without even greeting. "You completely humiliated Claudia. Everyone's talking about it. You're pathetic." "Valeria, get out of my apartment," I said firmly. But she ignored me and walked walked straight into the living room, where Claudia was still sitting on the sofa, crying like she was performing the saddest scene from a soap opera. "Look what you did to her," Valeria continued, pointing at me like I was a cartoon villain. "You made a scene over a simple joke and ruined her life. You canceled everything without even talking to her. What kind of psycho does something like that?" Valeria spat with contempt. "The kind who doesn't tolerate being publicly humiliated or being cheated on," I responded calmly, making sure my phone kept recording. "Please," Valeria scoffed, crossing her arms. "How dramatic. You're acting like you're some kind of victim. Claudia deserves so much better than a boring, insecure guy with no sense of humor. I'm telling you for the last time, get out of my apartment, or I'm calling the authorities." She let out an unpleasant laugh, with mockery so obvious it was almost grotesque. "Call them. Tell them your feelings are hurt. Claudia doesn't need someone like you," Valeria continued. "You did her a favor." Until that moment, Claudia hadn't said anything, but then she stood up with an exaggerated, theatrical sigh. "She's right, Valeria. I don't need this," she declared, looking at me with such cold contempt it hurt more than any scream. She went to the bedroom, while Valeria kept staring at me like she wanted to set me on fire with her eyes. "You know what's the saddest part of all this?" she said in a condescending tone. "Claudia was going to marry you out of pity." "I see," I replied, still recording. Claudia returned with a small backpack. Her expression was that of someone hurt, but also determined to maintain a dignity that no longer belonged to her. "Let's go, Valeria. I want to go somewhere where I'm actually valued." As they were leaving, Valeria gave me one last look loaded with venom. "Don't get too happy. You haven't won anything. Claudia has rights too. And believe me, we're going to make sure you pay for this. Next time you want to threaten someone, Valeria, try not to do it in front of a camera," I said, raising my phone. Still recording. Her face contorted into a grimace of fear as she realized what she had just done. They left without another word, and the door slammed behind them. Claudia spent that night at Valeria's house, which, honestly, was a relief. For the first time in months, the apartment felt peaceful. However, the calm didn't last long. At 8 a.m. the next day, my phone rang. It was Claudia's father, Don Isaac, an honest, retired man who had been an electrician his whole life. He built his own patio. I always got along well with him. "Daniel Ruiz," he said in a serious tone. "What the heck happened?" "Claudia told me you had a breakdown because she had a little fun at her bachelorette party, and you canceled everything without warning." I immediately noticed he was speaking from the version of events that Claudia had told him, where she appeared as the victim and I as the unbalanced one. "Isaac," I said, "that's not what happened. Do you have a few minutes? There's a lot more you should know." I told him everything calmly, without omitting details. The other end of the phone went silent for a long while. "Son," he finally said, thoughtfully, "that's not even remotely the story Claudia told me. She said she only made some harmless jokes, and you exploded. But now I understand why you recorded everything. Do you want to send me the video?" There was another pause. "Send it to me." The file was 15 minutes long. I warned him that the hardest part started around minute 5. I hung up and continued with my morning. An hour later, he called me back. His voice was no longer the same. He sounded exhausted, but also deeply disappointed. "My God, Daniel, I didn't know Claudia could be so cruel. She told me you couldn't handle a joke about being boring and stable. She didn't mention anything about what happened in the bedroom, or the mockery about your appearance, or about Tomas. And Valeria, pushing her the whole time. It was disgusting. I'm not telling you this so you'll take sides," I clarified. "I just wanted you to have the complete story. And I appreciate it, son. What Claudia did wasn't a silly mistake or a moment of drama. It was pure cruelty. I raised her better than that, or at least I thought I did. I'm so sorry. I'm going to have a very serious talk with her." From there, the conversation was different. It was no longer a father dealing with just another conflict from his daughter, but a man genuinely ashamed of what he had seen. "So what happens now?" he finally asked. "Now we have to untangle everything we shared. There's no other option." Those saying it was easier than doing it. 2 days later, while trying to relax playing on my console, I noticed something strange about my entertainment center. My PS4 controllers were missing. It might seem like a small thing, but it wasn't. I had 2 limited edition controllers that cost $200 each, plus the regular ones. Claudia knew perfectly well how much I valued my gaming equipment, and yet she took them when she packed her things that night. I wrote an email. This time I also copied her father. "Claudia, you can take your belongings without a problem, but I need you to return the 4 PS4 controllers immediately, including the 2 limited editions. They weren't yours. They need to be back tomorrow." I also included the rent issue. We both signed the lease legally. We were both responsible. She left thinking she could wash her hands of it. "Claudia, your share of the rent, $100, is 7 days overdue. According to the contract we both signed, we're responsible for the total. If you don't pay, this will affect our credit scores and an removal process could be initiated. Please pay immediately or sign a lease release form with the landlord." The phone rang 10 minutes later. "How dare you involve my dad in this?" Claudia shrieked furiously. "Hello, Claudia," I said, putting it on speaker while I made coffee. "Are you calling to say you've already paid the rent?" "I'm not paying anything. You kicked me out. You decided to leave after breaking our engagement. Our legal obligation to the landlord is still in effect. I'm just protecting my credit history, and you should do the same. You're cruel. You're trying to ruin me." "No, I'm paying my bills." Something you used to call boring and stable. Turns out it wasn't so irrelevant after all. I hung up and went back to my coffee. How different it was to start start the day without having someone next to me who treated responsibility like a weakness. But there was still one pending matter. The video of the live stream was still saved on my phone. Claudia worked at a medium-sized marketing agency, a company with strict policies about professional conduct, especially when public image is at stake. I uploaded the recording to my Google Drive and left it there for a few days. Part of me thought about just deleting it and closing that chapter as if nothing had happened. But then I remembered Claudia's expression as she told that story during the stream, with an arrogant smile, as if our relationship and her unfaithfulness were comedy material for strangers. That made me change my mind. So I drafted a formal email address to the HR department of the company where both Claudia and Tomas worked. I started with to whom it may concern and then stated the following. I am writing to report a concerning situation involving two employees of your company, Claudia Martinez and Tomas Diaz. I have in my possession a video in which Ms. Martinez publicly discusses inappropriate conduct between her and Mr. Diaz during a corporate retreat. I believe this could be a direct violation of your organization's professional conduct standards. I am attaching the recording for your review. Sincerely, Daniel Ruiz. I added the drive link and sent it without hesitation. Sometimes consequences don't need you to provoke them. They just arrive. The next scene in this mess came in the form of an unexpected visit. Isabel, Claudia's mother, showed up at my door without warning. If I had to describe her in one sentence, I'd say she's the type of person who always demands to speak to the manager. From her blonde highlights to her energy of moral superiority, she embodied it all. As soon as I opened the door, she started. Daniel Ruiz, she said, emphasizing each word of my name like she was scolding a child. How dare you ruin my daughter's life? I leaned against the doorframe, letting her vent. Claudia has been crying for days. All this over a simple joke you couldn't handle. You should be ashamed. Real men don't get upset over silly things like this. She continued, raising her voice and waving her arms like she was conducting an orchestra. Now she's sleeping on a friend's sofa because you decided to punish her. You ruined her reputation, made her father lose thousands of dollars. For what? To feed your fragile ego. While she was talking, I took out my phone and dialed a number. Hello, Isaac, I said when he answered. I'm fine. But tell me something. Why is Isabel at my house yelling at me? Isabel's face changed completely. Her expression went from fury to bewilderment. Can you hold on a moment? I asked Isaac before extending the phone to her. He wants to talk to you. She took the phone with a confused gesture, not understanding how her husband had found out so quickly. Hello, Isaac. I'm just trying to. I didn't need to be close to hear Isaac's voice on the other end of the line. He was furious, and it showed. Come home right now. I told you not to get involved. You have no idea what really happened. Could be heard clearly. Isabel's face went from bewilderment to humiliation. She tried to defend herself. But she's our daughter, Isaac. More shouting from the other side. I already saw the video. Enough. Don't say another word. And the call ended. Isabel handed me back the phone with a forced smile that convinced no one. Well, I still think you overreacted, she said before turning around and leaving, muttering something about real men and how nobody understood what Claudia was going through. I closed the door and went back to my coffee. It's impressive how people's attitudes change when they realize they're alone. Meanwhile, the group of friends who used to defend Claudia had turned into a parade of complaints about me. A couple of acquaintances with their own judgment sent me screenshots. The narrative now was that I was being cruel and vengeful. Cruel for living my life in peace and paying my bills while Claudia publicly ruined our wedding on Instagram. But the best part came when Valeria decided to intervene. She created a new WhatsApp group, including several of Claudia's relatives and co-workers. Her initial message was a masterpiece of manipulation. Hi everyone. As you know, Daniel had an overreaction and canceled the wedding. Claudia is devastated. It was all over a silly joke at her bachelorette party, and now he refuses to talk to her. We're doing everything possible to support her during this difficult time. The messages that followed were predictable. What happened? Poor Claudia. What a crazy guy. I didn't respond. Instead, I took care of some pending matters. A small business that Claudia and Valeria had used my software subscriptions, and it turned out they had several projects underway that week. Without access to the tools, they couldn't finish them. My phone soon filled with frantic messages from Valeria. We need access to Canva. We have pending deliveries. You're hurting our clients. This is revenge. I blocked her. It wasn't my problem, not my company, not my responsibility. The only thing that still bothered me was the video game controllers Claudia had taken. They weren't just any controllers. They were limited editions, expensive, and it was clear she took them just to annoy me. That was theft. Isaac called me a few days later. His voice sounded exhausted. About the controllers, son, he said. I'll return them to you. She had no right to take them. I thanked him. Can we meet, the three of us, and resolve this like adults? He asked. I hesitated. Part of me preferred to let it go, but I needed to close this chapter. All right, I accept, I responded, but only to get my things back and settle the financial matters. Everything else is already finished. I understand. I'll coordinate it. The meeting was at a small restaurant downtown. Isaac's choice, neutral territory. It felt like a hostage negotiation. Claudia arrived looking disheveled, as if she hadn't changed clothes in days. Her eyes were swollen, and she had that hurt expression that might work with her father, but not with me. Isaac looked like he had aged a decade. decade. Being the father of a 29-year-old woman who acts like a teenager in crisis must be exhausting. Without beating around the bush, he took out a bag and slid it across the table. "Here are your controllers," he said. Claudia made a gesture of annoyance, but didn't look up. "I don't understand why so much fuss over. You're just..." Not another word. Isaac interrupted her firmly. I checked the bag. All 4 controllers were there, including the limited editions. I felt immediate relief. "Now, the rent issue," Isaac said, pulling out a sheet with Ada. "I already transferred you the $1,100 from last month. I also spoke with your landlord and paid to have Claudia's name removed from the lease." "Great," Claudia muttered. "Now I'm homeless because he couldn't handle a simple joke." I said that's enough. Isaac turned to look at his daughter with a mix of exhaustion and disappointment that only a father can express. "This is the last time. The last time I pull you out of a mess you created yourself." Claudia murmured something under her breath, something that barely sounded like he was also at fault, but Isaac wasn't going to tolerate excuses. Then came the last point of the meeting, wedding expenses. I knew she was waiting for that moment. It was her opportunity to play the financial victim, as if everything had happened to her because of others. "We have to settle the pending wedding costs," Isaac said. "It's not that complicated," I responded, pulling out a sheet with my own list. "You paid for the dress and invitations. I covered the non-refundable deposits for the band, catering, photographer, and the total cost of the honeymoon trip to Italy. I also bought the engagement ring." Claudia decided to intervene with a sarcastic, venomous voice. "So you're going to reimburse me for the dress, right? Because it can't be returned." I almost laughed. "Of course not. You can sell it or burn it. I don't care. As for my losses, I plan to sell the ring to recover at least part of the honeymoon expense." She looked up suddenly, her eyes blazing with rage. "You're going to sell the ring? After everything it meant?" "Claudia, enough," Isaac interrupted before she could unleash another of her dramatic phrases. I leaned forward, my voice calm. "That ring represented a life together. But you didn't just question whether we should get married. You dedicated yourself to destroying every aspect of our relationship. And you did it for fun." Claudia was going to respond, but Isaac raised his hand, demanding silence. "That's enough. Daniel, what you're proposing is more than fair." That tone of closure, that certainty, was what really hit her. There was no more discussion. The matter was settled. Isaac nodded slowly. "It's fair, son." We finished our coffee without saying anything more. As we left, we didn't exchange another word. It's been 4 months since then. The storm finally subsided, and the apartment finally feels completely mine. Clean, peaceful, stable. That word stable, that for Claudia was always synonymous with routine, for me now means freedom. I found out what happened afterward through random messages from mutual friends and what's been seen on social media. And honestly, it's been more entertaining than any TV series. Claudia's life fell apart quickly. The first thing was that Isaac cut off her financial support. No credit cards, no rescues, no safety net. Apparently, after seeing the recording of the live stream, Isaac finally understood who his daughter had become. And that's when everything became even more interesting. Claudia had a brutal fight with Valeria, her best friend, in which she blamed her for everything, for encouraging her, for pressuring her, for being the one who convinced her to do that Instagram live. Yes, it turned out it was all Valeria's idea. Claudia said she was the one who encouraged her, who suggested every mockery, every comment. But Valeria didn't stay quiet. She responded that she was tired of carrying her dramas and being her unpaid therapist, that she wasn't going to continue being her scapegoat, and kicked her out of the apartment. Claudia, with no other option, started sleeping on different acquaintances' couches, wearing out everyone's patience one by one. Valeria had agreed to be maid of honor at a wild bachelorette party, not become the emotional babysitter of a broken, directionless woman. And speaking of consequences, remember that email I sent to the company where Claudia worked? Well, apparently HR departments do take seriously videos where an employee admits to inappropriate conduct within the work environment. Both Claudia and Tomas were terminated within a week. It seems the incident at the corporate retreat was already being investigated. My recording was the final push for them to make a decision. Claudia ended up getting a job at an insurance call center, and from what I'm told, she absolutely hates it. Tomas, for his part, blamed her for everything, packed his things, and moved back in with his parents in Ohio. She goes around saying I ruined her life. I find it ironic, like poetic justice. I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped financing her lifestyle and allowed reality to catch up with her. When you lose the financial backing of a responsible partner, get terminated for professional misconduct, your parents stop covering your mistakes, and your friendships get tired of you. What you're left with is the direct result of your own decisions. Valeria didn't come out unscathed either. The video was recorded by several people and ended up circulating throughout the entire social group. She's no longer seen as the fun, charismatic girl she used to be, but as the cruel instigator who pushed her friend to ruin her own future. I blocked that entire group. Claudia, Valeria, even Isabel. Social media, phone, email, everything. As if I had digitally deleted them from my life. Isaac still contacts me from time to time. He never mentions Claudia, but the respect between us remains intact. We recently met for drinks and ended up talking about our routines as if everything that happened belonged to another life. A few days ago, I made a decision. I booked that trip to Italy we had planned together. This time I'll go alone, not as a frustrated honeymoon, but as a personal celebration, closure, a new chapter. As for the ring, I sold it without hesitation. I didn't recover the total investment, but enough to treat myself to something I'd been wanting for a while. I invested part of it in myself, not in a false display of affection. Literally, I bought myself a high-end monitor I'd been looking at for months, not because I needed it, but because I deserved it. I didn't gain money, I gained clarity. The peace of mind of knowing I set boundaries, that I chose not to drag along a relationship out of fear or pride. And that, at the end of the day, is worth much more than any jewel or romantic destination. Now, every time I turn on that monitor and start a match, I'm not running from the past. I'm celebrating that I no longer carry what doesn't belong to me.